And welcome to my world. I'm of course Fred Kaz, and as you know, 7 nights a week I stream live over on Twitch, playing a variety of video games. The link to my Twitch channel, of course, can be found in the description below. Now, everybody knows I am a big fan of Mass Effect, particularly since being introduced to the franchise in 2017. I have played the original trilogy via the PC version numerous times. I've played Andromeda a few times on PC. And earlier this year, once I finally got myself a new console with the Xbox One, we played Mass Effect Andromeda back on November 7th. Just a couple weeks ago, I started playing the console version of Mass Effect, and I can't help but say that I certainly have some gripes to say about the console version of Mass Effect. Ironically enough, I am one of the few people, actually I think I'm like the only one who has no issues when it comes to the handling of the Mako, the infamous vehicle from the original Mass Effect. Maybe it's because I played the PC versions enough times to have a good understanding of how the Mako works, and am very used to the fine-tuning and subtle adjustments needed to keep the Mako going in a straight line and being able to climb virtually any major surface and so forth, and even being able to flip it onto his back for a little bit of comic elements. I can't do the latter one on the console version because you can't quite get the right perfect angle to bounce the Mako around the way I like as compared to the PC version. But I have had zero issues once I realized how the Mako moves using the double analog sticks to get a better understanding of how the turn really is a key factor in terms of how the Mako turns and goes in reverse and goes forward and so forth. But my biggest gripe with the console version of Mass Effect, as opposed to its PC counterpart, is the breaking of being in the moment. See, on the PC version of Mass Effect, you're playing with the mouse and keyboard. All right, the mouse is basically your aim, your fire button, your turning, and so forth. And one of the key things here is that you don't have to break immersion. There is ability to do so. If memory serves me right, you hit the tab button, but particularly if you're giving orders or directions to your two companions, that's kind of necessary. However, when it comes to something simple as, say, switching weapons, on the PC version, that is F1, F2, F3, F4. F1's your pistol. F1's your assault rifle. F2's your pistol. F3's the shotgun. F4 is the sniper rifle. So that's basically is what it is there. So it's if you're playing off of the WASD keys, you're basically reaching up and so forth. When it comes to using your powers and abilities, say lift, throw, barrier, neuroshock, I think it's neuroshock, or overload, etc. You can bind those to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it goes up to 8. So you can actually include you can actually bind your companion's powers to that as well. So essentially everything is within finger length, and you can see it's at the top right of the screen. You basically see your cooldown bar, and you can easily keep track of everything that's going on, and there is essentially no need to break the immersion, and you can very easily stay in the moment of what's happening. So if you're playing on Insanity or something, or Hardcore, the two harder difficulties, you can just basically keep up that frantic pace without having to literally pause the action, even though it's not officially it's not a pause, but in a way it is, and so forth. Now, on the console version, which I have discovered since we started playing the console version via the Xbox One, the breaking of being in the moment is very much a thing. Uh, which is surprises me a lot that it's such a thing here, and it actually makes the game in some regards a little bit more tedious and to play, to put it mildly. You have to hit RB to bring up your powers menu, and you get like the radio screen here, but it basically pauses a being in the moment. Now that would not be so bad, but there is no on-screen heads-up display indicating the cooldown when you're not pressing RB, how long it is until you can fire off your ability again. So you're basically hitting that. You basically are going to be hitting RB. If you're going for the biotic achievements, which I'm going to do off stream, you're basically bringing this up. You're constantly hitting this to fire off to get an idea of which ones to fire off. Uh, so it makes it really it's a real clunky mechanic to work with. Uh, and it's almost the same way in regards to switching weapons. You're hitting LB and you bring up the weapons radio. And I don't remember if the PC version had it or not, where the companions would switch weapons on their own to indicate what they are going to need, or that they adapt. I don't remember. I think they did switch weapons on their own, but I'm not totally sure because it's been over a year since I played the PC version of the original trilogy, or at least of particularly the original Mass Effect. But on the console version, I noticed that there is no switching of the weapons, so it kind of makes things a little bit more odd at times. Now, considering that there is the Legendary Edition that was announced back on November 7th of this year, what would actually be the best solution, though, for that? And I'm assuming that it's based on how it was worded, that it's just really going to be a remastered version of the original trilogy to give them all a consistent look, and that the gameplay isn't going to be tweaked much, if at all. But if they were doing more of a remake of the original trilogy, or at the very least of the original game, what would have worked? As a matter of fact, I'll go back and say this is a remake of the original trilogy. Was to basically give it the combat system, or at least the controls, in terms of using powers and abilities from Mass Effect Andromeda, because Andromeda has it right in terms of being like an action RPG without the need to break the immersion of what's going on. Because in Andromeda, on the console version, it's LB to fire one power, RB to fire another, hit them both at the same time to fire off a third power. So, and you have the HUD display on screen, so you basically are keeping track of that cooldown. I'm thinking, wow, that's awesome. It's like it's right there, and it made it the console version of Andromeda even more fun to play than the PC version, and I love the PC version of Andromeda. So it just made the action flow so much smoother and everything. I'm thinking, and again, as I'm playing the original Mass Effect with its with the control scheme that it has on console for the first time, thinking, ooh, it definitely feels archaic. So if the Legendary Edition is definitely more of a remake as opposed to a remaster, I would definitely hope they implement the control scheme from Andromeda into it. Uh, Now, which actually leads me to thinking, okay, they've also announced that there's going to be a fifth Mass Effect game, which of course I'm hoping. I'm hoping it's Mass Effect Andromeda 2, because I definitely want to know what's going on with Sarah, Drac, PB, and the crew. following the events of the original Andromeda. So, uh, which makes all the sense in the world. And I understand some people are saying, no, not Andromeda 2, we want it in the originals, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? It won't work. Narrative wise, won't work. But let's say if you want Shepard in the Andromeda galaxy and so forth, there is a way that could work. And it's real, and it's really damn simple. It is really simple. If they want to say, okay, you're not going to play as either Scott or Sarah Ryder in the sequel to Mass Effect Andromeda, you're going to get to play you get to play a Shepard. You know what that Shepard would be? Essentially, it would be another clone. Simple as that. That's all it would be. Is just another clone of Shepards. So you have the original Shepard, of course, dies at the beginning of Mass Effect 2. The Shepard you play in Mass Effect 2 and 3 is a clone that happens to have all the memories and everything intact of the original Shepard. The clone that's in the Citadel DLC is basically like the one that from the beginning of Mass Effect 2, but without everything fully implemented to make them exactly like the Shepard. So if you're gonna have like an Andromeda Shepard, if let's say they are actually gonna do that, um, essentially it would require the saves of, and I can understand why they doing Legendary Edition first. It would require the saves from the original trilogy, basically giving you something there to go off of, or at least from Mass Effect 1 and 2. Possibly 3, I'm not sure how that will work narrative wise. It probably doesn't. To give you something creatively for importing that type of a Shepard. I'm not saying that's what they should do. I am against it, but it's possible. It's just like you're playing another clone of Shepard that happened to be in a pod somewhere on the Nexus. Oh, it wouldn't be on the Nexus. It would have been on the human arc and so forth. That it's somewhere in there, and that we'll just say what the bullshit reason why the clone will be there is that, say, the elusive man in Cerberus figured, okay, this is humanity's effort, another effort for humanity to survive, and let's just say that the elusive man, this, kind of realized something was going on with Gian Larson and so forth, and they wanted to make sure humanity had the best way of making sure that they're protected out there, and it's like a ship off a clone, sneak in a clone of Shepard to go along with it. But again, that's just me spitballing a half-ass reason for if anybody just wants to continue playing as Shepard in the Andromeda Galaxy. But really, let's face it, the original trilogy story is closed, and the 5th game should be just a straight up continuation of Mass Effect Andromeda outright. So with that said, we'll wrap up this week's commentary. If you have your thoughts, opinions, and so forth, leave them in the comment section below. Heaven knows folks have done that last week when I went off on Ukes and the whole AEW gaming situation, but be that as it may. With that said, tighten your friendship bracelet, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.